And welcome back to another podcast with Mr. Hagan. On this podcast, we continue talking about the Keynesian view of the economy and the idea that the economy is not always self-regulating, that the economy might not always be self-regulating. In fact, sometimes the economy may get stuck at an equilibrium gross domestic product that is below its potential, and it will not fix itself. So to think about this, let's go back to our y equals c plus I plus g plus nx formula. And we said on the classical video, we said if you get a decrease in consumption, that's obviously going to cause a decrease in gross domestic product. But that, and then when you call that a recession, but the recession will fix itself, because the classical economist said this. The classical economist said that if consumption goes down, then savings will rise, and people will put that savings in the bank, and then the bank will lend the money out to investors, and investment will go up, and no problem. The GDP will then go up, and everything will be great. The economy is self-regulating. It will fix itself. However, the Keynesian economists are going to challenge this idea in a couple different ways. So one way they would challenge this idea is that they would say that this process might break down. So if consumption goes down and people begin saving more, and that savings gets put into a bank, but then the bank doesn't lend the money out, then the investors never get the money. Okay, and that means if the bank never lends the money out and the investors never get the money, that means investment never actually goes up. So this connection breaks down right here. This never happens, either because these investors, the companies, don't want to borrow the money because they're worried about the economy right now, and they don't want to go into debt and start some new investment project, or the bank is skeptical about the economy, and they don't want to lend money out. So the decrease in consumption doesn't lead to an increase in investment. It's just a decrease in consumption, and the money just sits there in the bank, not really doing anything. And I'm kind of simplifying this all, but that's kind of the idea. And it actually gets worse than that. And why is it worse than that? It gets worse than that because of the problem with inventories. So let's think about it this way. Let's think about it as you get a decrease in consumption, and if consumption goes down, then that's going to cause inventories to begin to rise. So you're going to get an increase in inventories. If consumption goes down, you get an increase, let's make that plural, you get an increase in inventories. And if inventories begin to rise, then companies respond to that by decreasing production. And if they decrease production, remember, this decreased GDP, decreased production is also a decrease in income. So that means consumers have less income. If consumers have less income, then that's going to lead to a decrease in consumption. And if you get a decrease in consumption, then that's going to cause inventories to rise by even more. And if inventories rise, that will cause companies to further decrease production, and that means lower income and for the workers, and that means the workers will lower their consumption even more, and that means inventories will go up even more, and you get stuck into this downward spiral. And so that you can see then from this inventory point of view that you're going to end up at an actual gross domestic product that is below your potential, and there's nothing that the natural economy is going to do to fix this. There's nothing for the natural economy, for the macroeconomy to fix that all by itself. Thus the argument that you need something from the outside, like government, to get involved, and that'll be a discussion for another video. The point just here is that the economy is not self-regulating. It doesn't fix itself if you get stuck in this kind of downward spiral because of the inventory situation. So the Keynesians, let's say it this way, the Keynesian economists are demand-siders. They tend to focus on that consumption part. They tend to focus on the demand side of the market. And they tend to focus more on the short run. So the classical economists are more kind of supply side, long run focus, and the Keynesians are more kind of demand side, short run focus. And we'll be able to understand what this all means a lot better once we build the aggregate demand, aggregate supply model on some future videos. But this should at least give you a sense of the distinction between the classical economists and the Keynesian economists. The classical economists are supply-siders, long run, and they tend to be more skeptical about the need of government to intervene to help the economy because it helps itself. It's self-regulatory. And the Keynesian economists, they tend to be more demand-siders, focus more on the short run, and tend to more advocate for government intervention in order to help the economy. So that's the distinction between the two, and we will get into the differences there and into the theory on some future videos. This has been Mr. Hagan. Thanks for joining me for another video. We'll see you on the next podcast.